Well, what's
Hey,
going
what's
on,
going
fellas?
on?
What's good? What's good?
Hey, man.
How's it going?
Everything's great.
Oh, super,
That's what's up,
super.
man. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate y'all getting with a brother tonight, man. We ain't gonna be here long, man. We're gonna hit these topics because they've been on my mind all day. Me and Derek have been going back and forth about a particular topic, and we're gonna jump on that tonight.
All
Rashawn,
right.
you was actually in on that topic on the post. But wow, man, I've learned a lot this year about comics. And one of the first things that I want to do before we get started is I want to do a shout out to everybody that's watching. Shout out to all the Black comic lords out there. Shout out to the collectors. Shout out to the movie heads. Shout out to everybody, man. Appreciate the support. We've had a very, very interesting year in Black comics, independent, mainstream. Um, a lot of this stuff has been going on during the pandemic, and it's almost like we just hit the restart button. But so one of the topics that really crossed my mind was the Miles Morales cast. A lot of people were excited about Spider-Man Far From Home, and like some people was like, "Yo, is Miles going to be in there?" And then there was a particular picture. I'm gonna share my screen real quick. There was a particular picture. Let me get this shared up here. That was on um, the group today. And let me see. Can I find it? I'm like having issues finding it. All
Oh, I
right.
didn't even see that one. That's
With
definitely news
Miles,
to
with
me.
Miles, and I forget the guy's name. He's an actor. I'm almost there. Almost there. Okay, I want to share.
I wonder if it's a Stranger Things guy because they keep on showing that dude every time they talk about Miles Morales casting.
And now it's not letting me do anything. Okay, here we go. Share. All right. So, excuse my. So, have y'all? Can y'all see my screen?
Yep,
Yep. I
got
see
So
it.
that.
this is the guy that actually somebody photoshopped this. This is the guy, and I can't think of his name. Excuse me for that. But somebody can, remind me in the chat. But he actually took a picture with Todd Holland last Monday at the premiere, and aesthetically he looks perfect. I would love to see him be Miles. But one of the things that was very, very intriguing is that he's not Puerto Rican. He's Mexican and he's Filipino. And I was just wondering what you guys' thoughts are. And I was a proponent. Like I feel like, you know, I remember when Miles first came out, black folks was like, "Yo, he's the first Black Spider-Man, first Black Spider-Man." Even to this day, you'll probably hear that a little bit more. But then I heard Puerto Rican side of his family like, "Yo, he's Puerto Rican, he's Puerto Rican," and I kind of stayed out of that like little drama with that. And it was light because he was getting hated on because of the purists who wanted to kind of stay with Peter Parker. But long story short, do you think it's important that the actor is Puerto Rican because he has a big fan base? If you just throw a Mexican in there, you just throw somebody from a Spanish kid in there, and it's making rock. What do you guys? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm a guess here, so I'm gonna let y'all go. I'm let him go first.
Okay. Yeah, just a few words. I'm a man of few words, and my short answer is I do think it's important to try to have an actor that matches the heritage of the character. The same way that if they were to be an actor selected who was just Puerto Rican but not of any African heritage, I think we would be a bit upset. I think we need to, as much as possible, look for the heritage that makes the match. And that said, you do need to have the right match. So that makes it a lot tougher, I think, because you're narrowing down the total number of actors that are available. But I do think it is important to try to get that match.
I saw a lot of people like, man, it don't matter. Like nobody cares about that. And I understand that you have the popular part of our black population that looks at Puerto Ricans as black folks. I'm not going to get into that, the nationality of Puerto Rican people. But then, excuse me, where I'm located down here in Florida, there's a bang of Puerto Ricans like, yo, we're not black. We Spanish. Spanish is a language, so that sounds weird. But they kind of pull back on that black stuff. So I just think it is important for representation. They even gave Miles a Puerto Rican suit, like outfit to wear in the comics. So it's important. Like it's important enough to Marvel. I think they're going to tread very, very carefully with that. Rashawn, what's your thoughts?
I want to hit on this on two different things. One, it's kind of funny, right? Because we have this one part of us where we're like, yeah, man, it has to match exactly. He's got to be black and he's got to be Latino, just like the character. But let me ask, do we apply that logic everywhere? Right? Because Chadwick Boseman wasn't West African, correct? Right? Like a lot of these characters don't actually match the heritage. Now, I think a lot of the times, if the person at the very least, and this is me, doesn't have to be everyone, does a person at least look like their comic book counterpart, right? Because we have this exact same thing with Storm, right? Storm, my problem wasn't that Storm wasn't, portrayed African. It's the fact, not even though she should be. It's just they don't even, the ones they had on the movie didn't even look like her. They weren't dark skinned. They really went out their way to make her not look like the actual character, right? So as far as Miles is concerned, I mean, there are quite a few mixes that would get you people who look like the character. I think the important thing, let's just say the guy was black and Mexican, right? And looked exactly like Miles. He could still, as an actor, portray a character who is not. Because in acting, how many times do people portray something that they're not? That's not like a very new concept, but they have to look like it. Like you wouldn't have somebody who's like, oh yeah, well, you wouldn't have Michael Jai White portraying a Filipino, right? Obviously, that wouldn't make any sense. But you can, if he looks like a person from a general area vicinity, they can portray that. And there are a lot of people who have similar genetics that could still play Miles Morales and could still be the character. So, I mean, it's not really a deal. It's not necessarily the biggest deal breaker. I mean, hell, how many people in the South, like you named, are mixed descent of like Sioux and Cherokee who happen to look a lot like people like Miles, right? Mm-hmm. You could still do that. You could still portray the character. The character themselves is still of Afro-Latino heritage. That doesn't change about the character. The actor is portraying a character. You don't have to be a one-to-one. That heritage you're talking about is still being represented. And I'm not saying anything like groundbreaking here. Like this is like been happening since the history of acting, right? Like people have been portraying things they are not. But
granted. I think and this is the last point, and we're gonna move on to the topic number 2. But I think the interesting thing is, in the past when Chadwick Boseman, in the past with other heroes, it's always been he's just African, and then you just replace him. But now you got a mixed race person that has a strong following on the Puerto Rican side, and I guess you could say a strong following on the black side. I've seen folks act funny with Miles, but it's more so because he's a legacy character behind Peter. But one of the interesting things that somebody brought up today, how popular would Miles be if he wasn't Puerto Rican and black and he was just black? And I think that's a good question. That's a very good question. How popular would he be? Another one, and maybe a question we could pose for another evening is, how good, was Miles a minority in his own movie? Because he was surrounded by the Spider-Verse. It was about him, but the folks that went and saw the movie, they talked about Miles, but they was really loving on Gwen. It was really loving on Spider-Ham, all the other people. And for me, it was a great movie, but it kind of felt like the black sheep almost to a certain extent. It was about Peter and him, stuff. So hopefully Into the Spider-Verse 2 is a little bit better, but we'll see. I'm going to go to the next topic. Hopefully I click this button and takes us to my next slide. All right. So this is very controversial. We've seen E-Man's movie reviews. There's people that are straddling the fence. There's people all over the place. When E-Man first dropped this out there, a lot of people were like, yeah, let's recast. Then there was some people was like, damn, can we bury the man first before y'all start talking about recasting? So it didn't gain a lot of traction. And the email was very big on, yo, I'm telling y'all, bro, they ain't finna recast the child. And I was one of those that was like, man, shut up. They gonna recast the child, bro. Like, just chill out. Like, you doing the most. And fast forward to 2021, December, about to go into 22, they've said, brother ain't getting recast. And this man's still out here fighting. I want to go on record for saying this. If you're listening, I apologize, brother. Because you put in that work. I've seen this man on TMZ. I've seen this man with Charlamagne the God. Like, everybody's talking about this now. Does that make Marvel move? I don't know, but he's putting in the work. I've never seen nobody go hard for a black superhero ever. And one of the statements he came out with today was like, yo, y'all trying to come off like all black lives. I was like, not all black lives, but all lives matter-ish, and saying it ain't just about T'Challa, it's about all of them. I'm one of those people that said it's about all of them. But right now, we do need to focus on T'Challa, but I just don't think that we're going to see it, because I know with the Snyder Cut and how many, all the folks that there was like over 197,000 petitions. We've not even hit 50,000 yet. What's your thoughts on this movement in general?
Yeah,
I'll go last.
Okay, yeah. For my part, I feel like it's pretty simple, but I understand both schools of thought. There are a lot of people out there who just don't know the comics that well, and their first introduction to Black Panther was Chadwick Boseman. So for those, they see Chadwick Boseman as the Black Panther, and there could never be another. I understand that point of view. However, the fact of the matter is that the Black Panther was a character long before Chadwick Boseman, and just to the point that we had earlier on Miles Morales, there could be a lot of different people that could play the role. We've already had a lot of characters that have been swapped anyway in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so there should be no exception here. And so my view is absolutely, if Marvel wants to continue the story of T'Challa, Chadwick Boseman's death shouldn't stand in the way of that. You might have some acceptance as be gained across the wider audience, but I just don't think it makes sense to end a storyline for a character just because the first person to play that person is black or is dead.
Before you jump in, Joshawn, I think what Marvel is trying to set their cat hat on and try to go to sleep at night on is, yeah, we didn't give you T'Challa, but we honored his memory and we didn't want anybody to step in his shoes. Because their whole thing is, granted, yeah, if right now, tomorrow we come out and say, you know what, we were wrong, or you know what, this is for the fans, this is what Chad would have wanted. They do a complete turncoat and they make a whole lot of money. I think with their conscience, they're like, man, this dude had cancer. He fought so hard for this role. How could we just recast it so soon? And what they should have done is I think they really just should have kept them. When they said we're not recasting T'Challa anytime soon or whatever, Kevin Feige said that should have been the end of it. But for the other guy to come out and speak on it some more, it really just didn't do. They could have left it a mystery. Because now you got to kind of walk back what you said if you do decide to bring back T'Challa. So that's another issue there. But nobody's going to care if the acting is right and the movie is a slam. Like, nobody's going to care that people will point out the fact that, yeah, you try to cancel my dude, but it's funny. Joshawn, what's your point?
I mean, I honestly, I disagree with the Jim, and he just said just now. Yeah, the character's been around way before Chadwick Boseman, and that's not disrespectful. People, for some reason, people find that disrespectful. Like, it's not replacing Chadwick Boseman. He is no longer with us. It is still a role. It's a character that's still being written in the comics. So it is completely okay to have someone else portray this character. Nothing disrespectful about it. That's what people they're very, incensed when you say that. And like he said, people don't know the comics that well. So to them, this is it. Now, the only thing that I take, exception to when I see Marvel, we're going to honor the memory, we're going to do this. If besides Monica Rambeau now, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now, this is probably, he would have been the only original, besides even because now Falcon isn't Falcon anymore, right? Now he's Captain America, so he doesn't have his original name anymore. So besides that, he would have been the only character, like original Black character, prominent in the MCU. So you take that away, then what happens? Because that's something that I have to ask. We're honoring this memory. So, okay, so then what are you paying attention to the other original characters, or are you just gonna go, oh no, Shuri, we got Shuri going on? But by the way, we all know when we read the story, the Shuri thing didn't just come out of nowhere. That was something that was built up over a matter of time, and he wasn't dead. So I hear people saying that because they Googled Black Panther and Shuri 5 minutes ago and said, look, there's President Shuri, we got something for you right there. But it's like it's without all the gravity. So no, I would like to see them actual recast T'Challa. Of course. I think it would actually be a large disservice for the character to not keep it going for whatever reason they decide to do it.
Yeah, alas, and if they don't, we're gonna have to just live with it, because at the end of the day, I don't know if he reaches the 50,000. It says if as 50,000 signatures, this petition becomes one of the top signed on change.org. You're going to make a multi-billion-dollar company. Can a petition make a multi-billion-dollar company change their mind for the Black dollar? That's the multi-million. Well, that's the $1,000,000 question. I won't say multi-billion-dollar, but Marvel has so many other irons in the fire. This is one Black superhero. Unfortunately, it is the most popular one right now. It is the hottest one right now, and so they have a choice to make in the next 365 days, because he ain't gonna be in Wakanda forever. But after that, they gotta see what they're gonna do. They can go back on their word, and I think a lot of people will be happy. Now, once they go back on their word, that casting gotta be A1, because folks gonna come for their necks there too. They ain't gonna pay the win for trying. So, all right, next topic. So,
That's funny as hell.
this is wild. So here's my thing. Okay, so I'm gonna go on record saying this. I am a comic book reader. There's people that get into the social political things of comics, and I don't bother them. They don't really bother me. I let them do their thing. And I get the what if. And I've never worked for Marvel a day in my life. I don't know what it feels like to be a Reginald Hudlin, Rodney Barnes, a Kevin Grieve. I don't know what it feels like to be those guys. But I see this as a missed opportunity to, if you're going to do a Miles Morales and it becomes Captain America, why don't you take Miles Morales off of there? Why don't you do a Truth, another Isaiah Bradley? Like you're wasting ink when you could really be doing a backstory, maybe a 6-issue series, Tales of Isaiah Bradley. You could be doing Night Watch. You could be doing Meteor Man. You could be doing anything but this. I don't like to use terms like lazy writing and stuff like that, because I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, and I don't know what the schedule for Marvel looks like. I don't know, but I know this much: this is a waste of ink. I love Miles. I don't have a problem with Steve Rogers. I'm not the biggest. I love Falcon as Falcon versus Falcon as Sam, but I understand I'm probably in the minority with that. But when y'all see stuff like this, and we're in the age of the Black Renaissance, this is probably the phase 2. And if we ain't careful, this is going to be the end of it for a while. What do y'all think about comics like this that's about to be released?
Yeah. I get your point. I think from an artistic perspective, there's probably better stories that could be told. I think there's probably a mathematical equation that's taking place too. So if you're going to do this type of a story, then you want to hit, a broader audience. So, with Miles is going to appeal to younger fans and readers, and also appeal to the Latino community, whereas Truth probably not as much. So just from a mathematical perspective, can you even get enough people to pre-order the books to keep that line alive if you had to do the truth story, and how much easier would it be to maintain that versus a Miles becomes Captain America? You know, I'm not saying I agree with the decision from an artistic perspective, but from a, you know, what could it take to sustain a storyline financially? I think that's part of the equation that's making the decisions here.
You know what's funny about that? You know what's funny about that? A lot of the people who they're catering to, because that's what's funny. What you're actually articulating, like you're making it sound really like really nice, but you're articulating people checking boxes, right? Because that's what it is. It's not necessarily creative, which is kind of like where Herschel's coming from there, where it's like, all right, well, I got you. You want to put this character, because this character Miles is really popular, so let's just juxtapose him in another mantle or another character that was already held by someone else for a long time, and let's just use that, even though you say you don't have to go to the socio-political thing, but it is where it's coming from, right? It's what they know people are very into that. However, that doesn't really translate into dollars all the time, because a lot of the people who are actually paying attention to stuff like that, they just watch the mass media version. So they might look at the movie or the cartoon, but a lot of them don't even buy the books. They don't. A lot of them are in the chat, right? Like a lot of them are the ones that'll sit there, that'll post stuff up and do this and be like, okay, well, I love the character, but then we talk about the books. Mind you, people love Miles because they saw the movie and stuff like that. But then if you start talking about like Ultimate Fallout and stuff like that, they have no idea, right? And to your point, a better story. Did you read Children's Crusade? He looks exactly like what Eli looked like when he was older. Remember the one shot when they showed Eli when he was like an older patriot and he was in that suit? So technically, this has been done. It's just nobody read, like all these new people, they haven't read it, so they're acting like it didn't exist, and they got him looking almost exactly like that. And now they're gonna juxtapose well, guess what? It's different, Eli. It makes sense for Eli, right? Because technically, it's in his blood, literally, and that lineage makes sense. Like that shield, it makes sense for him to have it because he's carrying his grandfather's legacy. And Steve Rogers even looks at him a certain way. But when it comes to this is just kind of placating towards a demographic that doesn't even really buy the comics like that.
Yeah, they don't. They really don't. But this is in hopes of putting a little bait on the line and throwing it out there. But the problem is when you throw that bait out there, you're trying to catch the little guppies. The problem is the big fish is like, I don't even want to swim in this pond no more. And they will pull away. and that's the thing. So yeah, we're not gonna spend too much time on this book. This is wild. There's so many other
and this isn't, and I wasn't aware of this one. So this is not even a what if. This is a real storyline.
This is a what if because he doesn't.
What if?
It's like a what if, but it's a what if without saying what if. Okay, this is basically what this is. And guess what? There's somebody on the live right now. I don't see what the problem is. Miles was a great character. You guys are just guys. Come on, give Miles a chance, and that's fine. Maybe they got you. What's up, Austin? All right, so next topic, and wow. This actually is this our last topic? I don't know, but we're closing up to the 30-minute mark. And I told myself we're getting off here in 30 minutes. So this book dropped in our BCL, which is our Black Comic Lords Facebook page. If you haven't already.
Paul dropped this, right?
Huh?
Paul dropped this, right?
No, Paul didn't drop this. A guy named Jonathan Sellers. Now, I've known about this book for over a year ago, and me at the time, maybe a little bit more social political. I don't really like for people to take Black historical figures and kind of turn them into stuff like this. I like, hey, let's leave them alone. Let's let them be. But I'm gonna tell you something. I've never seen something go viral. This has hit over 90,000 views. Okay, across from this group, it's been shared over 810 times. The interesting thing about it is more so not just the Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, it's the comments. And so what I did was I went down that rabbit hole because I'm all about data and numbers. And I said, well, I wonder who is sharing this stuff and why aren't they in this space? Well, they're mostly, I guess, is that Gen Zers? No, they're mostly millennials. What comes after millennials?
Gen Z.
Okay, Gen Zers. And most of them was like, yo, this looks just like, this is like my anime. This looks like a samurai. What's the samurai? Not Samurai Jack, but what's the Black Samurai anime show that comes on?
Afro Samurai.
Afro, this is like Afro Samurai. Oh, this is so dope. Where can I buy this? I saw over 100. Where can I buy this? Where can I buy this? Which is mind-boggling to me because I don't understand. For me, and maybe because I'm a comic head, I see Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. Okay, let me go to my phone, type it in. Let me find out who's selling this book. Boom, that's why I buy it. But I know people just ask questions like that because they ask questions. But what do y'all think about taking real world, serious heroes and turn them into stuff like this? What's your thoughts? Does it bother you? Or are you like, where are you guys at with that?
For me personally, I don't have a problem with it. I don't know if I don't know how many of those I'd read, but it gets interest up. Maybe for some people who don't know about that real world person, maybe they'd be inspired after reading this story to learn some of the real things about that person too. So I like that aspect of it.
Maybe they throw some stuff in there.
Yeah, and if maybe they do something really inspirational in the story. So I don't feel strongly about it one way or another, which probably isn't good for a video show. But that's my feelings. Yeah.
But you're keeping it real.
No, yeah, but like if it's done creatively, that's fine. And they introduce a concept that doesn't actually exist. I'll tell you, I'm probably better about this than I would be. Did y'all watch The Harder They Fall?
Everybody's talking about it. I haven't gotten around to it.
Right. I had a major issue with what they did there because they literally took people who are very real and made like an Avengers-esque movie, but each of those people had amazing lives that could have literally had like an episode by themselves or like two like 60-minute things. If you understand what I'm talking about. So it kind of neutered every single character just to fit them in. Like, you guys are gonna go look it up, right? And guess what? A lot of people don't. Like, you see what he said? He was like, maybe it gets people to garner interest in a character. We hope that, right? We hope
it
that
never happens.
But people, some people do, and then some people just look at that and then they'll look, oh, that's Nat Turner? Okay. That must be how he was in real life. Meanwhile, he was like, he was about to marry like a Native American chief. He's an author. He did all these, like all those characters were larger than life and they were real. They did real crazy stuff, but you'll never know because they just made like a team up. It was like a Power Rangers episode when all the Red Rangers team up. Like, how'd you get here? I don't know, a portal. Like it was almost like it was just a Western version of that. They all wound up in the same place, same time, and then all that stuff was just gone. You know what I mean? But that's the only thing that I feel weirdly about is when they have a historical character, they could put people onto how amazing they are because if they're not gonna read it, here's your opportunity. I'm gonna give it to you live in action. And you go, nah, man, let's just put them there by name. This I don't have too much of a problem with because it's not like zombies and vampires and all that exists anyway. So I mean, spice up something, I guess.
Or do they? No, I'm playing.
That's funny.
Anyways,
that's funny. Philadelphia could be happening right now.
Yo, Philadelphia should have already been like after they saw. I don't want to say what they saw, but what was that movie? It was like a Monster Hunter. It was like Bitterroot. That was it. It got canceled.
Mm-hmm.
What was that show that everybody was talking about? You know what I'm talking about. It had Smollett in it, the light-skinned girl. And the guy that's playing Kane, he was in it. Somebody help me out in the chat. What was that?
Yeah, my brain's blanking right now.
Something green, it had like a green book they had to follow or what? What is that?
Oh, you're talking about
Lovecraft Country.
Lovecraft Country.
Lovecraft Country basically could have been the precursor to Bitterroot. Okay, Lovecraft Country could have been like Lovecraft Country technically peeked through the door and blew everybody away. You could do Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, you could do Bitterroot, you could do a Philadelphia. Now you can do all that stuff because now here's the thing: we're in a bubble because we're black, and everybody that looks like us was like, "Yeah, that was dope," but we don't know what the masses saw. We don't know what the numbers look like, but we enjoyed it. That's something that should go to Netflix. I know it was on HBO Max, but Netflix should be like, "Yo, HBO Max canceled y'all. Y'all still on contract? We'll take it. We'll take it, Black Mind, right over here to Netflix." And guess what? There'll be a top-rated show on there. Bring them all back. They'll all be top-rated shows. All right, last point we hit our 30-minute mark. But we're gonna try to keep it under 35. I said people don't watch videos.
Yeah.
It's 4 hours long.
By the way, quick shout out to those making comments. I know we haven't really gotten to any of those comments there, but thanks for your participation.
Appreciate you. We will. Somebody said, "Yo, can you do more lives?" Yes, we are going to try to do more lives for you guys in 2022. We also got some other stuff coming in 2022. Stay tuned. So let me share this screen. Last point I want to make. Share screen. I want to say untitled presentation.
Hey, while you're looking for that, we got another comment from Austin.
Go ahead.
Hey, he's requesting we bring back Rico when it comes to collecting and investing. So hey, Rico, if you're here, you're listening. Hey, we got some demand for you to come back and give us some more knowledge.
How you gonna come on the show and say, can y'all give me Rico? I don't know what y'all talking about. What y'all talking about? All right, we're gonna share this screen and then I'm gonna come over here. So I asked this question. Listen, I gotta do it. I asked this question today, and shout out to Derek, because Derek could have really got annoyed with me, and Derek could have been like, "No, Hershel, you just don't get it. Let it go." But Derek really broke this down for me. Here's the question: why does it seem like more folks are drawn to anime and manga more versus Black titled mainstream and underground? Currently, manga, and this is true, anybody can go on right now and y'all could, take a look for yourself. Currently, manga is outselling comics. I'm asking the folks that read both. Now, here's the catcher. Now, here's the controversial part, right? By the way, they sure don't go hard for Black folks as hard as we go for them. Now, I'm gonna pull this away. I'm gonna unshare this, because if you ain't watching, you just ain't watching. And I kind of I heard what Derek said, and I'm 85% in agreement. Derek, can you kind of sum up? And most people are saying this down in the description. I think, Rashawn, you were basically kind of going to mimic what Derek is saying. But go ahead, Derek. I'm going to let you kind of sum this up.
Yeah, first of all, I'll preface this by saying I've never read manga or any of those types of areas. But similarly, I've only really been looking at comics for a few years now. So my path into comics was probably different from most of the people who've been reading comics their whole lives. So the points that I understand, though, is manga and anime, they're more accessible. If you're thinking about comic books and comics today, you're not going to see them in the places where people are just going to go for their day-to-day lives. You have to go to a comic shop, or you have to order from a comic shop, or you can order from some place to make it available online. So that's A. And then B, it's a question of information. So it's not just about, oh, well, do I have the means to buy it? What am I going to buy, right? And what am I interested in? If you're interested in Black Panther, which we talked about earlier, which run should I get? And how do I get enough of that run so it makes sense for me to buy them, right? So all of those challenges, in my view, stand in the way of somebody who hasn't spent their whole lives collecting comics to get started if they have an interest. And I do believe that there are a lot of people who have an interest in the comic characters today because of what's going on in the MCU and other movies and TV that's happening right now. But those same folks will find a tough path into comics just because of the way that they're sold and the way the information about comics is arranged. It's made for people who've always bought comics and not for people who are trying to get into it. So from a business standpoint, I call it the customer journey. What's the customer's journey into something when you're not exposed to it? So what's your first exposure going to be? And from that first exposure, what information you're going to get that's going to take you to the next step in the process? So maybe you're checking out the information, doing your research. And how's that research going to lead to something actionable? So if all those things don't lead to the next step, then the person's going to stop that process. And I think that's a challenge that exists in comics today. It's really hard for somebody new to get into it unless they have somebody to kind of take them by the hand, or a father or mother who collected comics to tell them, hey, here's how to do it. Here's what you do. Or if you have, if you're resourceful enough just to walk into a comic book shop and trust the person you turn to or somebody in the shop and say, hey, I'm interested in this. What should I buy? So I do think that's a challenge with comics.
Yeah, Rashawn,
Man,
I'm gonna tighten it down.
man, that was said wonderfully, man. Because I mean, honestly, that's it. I mean, even just from my personal journey, like my uncle and my father, they like kind of like blessed me in the comics, so I was there on the ground level that way. So they were like the people who like held my hand into it. So obviously, like I'm born '91, so I got a chance to see that. Everything that came before me was because of them, obviously, right? Anime has always been around from my time, whether it's been on TV or not. Manga, I'm not necessarily the most. I will say I'm not the most well read when it comes to manga, but a lot of stuff that did have an anime counterpart, I've gone back to read some like the popular stuff, and it's pretty interesting. Now, what that means for, I guess, the general audience is exactly what you said. This just takes somebody like Spider-Man, right? How many different authors have gotten their hands on them, right? Some of them follow each other, some of them don't. Some of them retcon the other one. Some of them say this event matters more than the other one. It's very complicated. Like you said, like the customer journey, or in this thing, the reader's journey, right? Just to kind of like make it specific, the reader's journey is very convoluted for comics. Now, to Marvel's credit, and DC's demerit, and I'll get to that in a second. To Marvel's credit, they tried to come up with the Ultimate Universe because of that, right? They were like, oh, wait, we got 40, 50 years. The Ultimate Universe is going to be fresh for them to step in. The issue was, not all of it was good. I think we did. Did anybody read that Ultimatum storyline? Yeah, we know how some of this stuff, it gets kind of crazy when it comes to that, right? And obviously they destroyed the universe because people weren't buying it, because once again, that generation also just was not buying the books. They have to be able to buy them for them to survive. And then DC obviously had a huge writer's problem, which is why they kept doing Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, Flashpoint, Rebirth, because they had to keep on trying to revamp because it just wasn't making any sense anymore. So imagine all these comic book readers, right? So imagine all your friends. Imagine, can you imagine right now? I just told you those things, and I never even had to explain that to you, like Flashpoint, Rebirth, because you already know, right? Imagine trying to sit down and explain to somebody, well, this happened, but then, Superman punched a hole into the universe, and now we got this one, and then after that, this happened, and it's just, people go, I don't even know if I want to be a part of that, versus, oh, we got issues 1 through 300 of One Piece or whatever like that, you'll be good to go, central storyline, bam, one vision, and then they go, okay, that sounds more appealing, and like, that's it, that reader's journey is so much more simpler. And once again,
so you mean to tell me if I go to a bookstore and I want to jump into One Piece, there's one book sitting over there and it's got either a certain cut up of so many issues, but there's one writer, one artist, one everything, one storyline.
It's one vision.
Yeah. And that ain't gonna happen with comics, because with comics, the more money. Funny thing is, if manga outsells you, but comics think, well, we're going to have 5 or 6 Spider-Man titles. We're going to make a lot of... You're not. I mean, I remember when they just had 3, Web, Spectacular, and Amazing. But now they got like 20. And it's like, y'all not making more money. So like, why aren't they looking at what... But then, you know what? If they do cut them down to one author, one writer, like they was doing in the 60s and 70s, those are... You know what? I think I know why they're doing it. Why is Marvel having so many different titles, so many different artists, so many different writers? You know why they're doing that? Because they saw what happened with Image. There's not enough work, or there's not enough of this. People are going to go out and they're going to create their own company, and you're going to be scared to come to a con. Mario Geller, I interviewed him about a month ago. He said, Rob Liefeld, all those guys, they left Marvel, DC, screw y'all. They went out and created their own characters. He said for 5 years, Marvel and DC didn't even show up to San Diego Comic-Con for 5 years, because they were like, man, we don't know what to do with these guys. Now, what they created was more gimmicky, and it was hot for like a year or two. But you're right. If I'm not able to, think about those hot artists that do all those covers for Marvel and DC. There's like 60 of them out there. Such variant, this variant, this variant, this variant. They're really, it is working, but y'all still ain't beating manga. And manga don't got no variants. Manga ain't got no dope covers. They got that one storyline, and they got like what Stan Lee used to say, the Marvel way, manga got a certain way. And I think it's too late for, when me and Derek was talking about this, I think it's too late. Like they cannot backtrack and downsize just to, I don't know. It's
There's
crazy.
an upside though. There's an upside. Not for DC and Marvel. DC and Marvel would have to literally completely like reevaluate stuff. However, if you look at Image, Valiant, they don't do a whole bunch of that. Like when you look at like Team Unity and stuff like that, like that's it. There's not a whole bunch of runs of Ninjak and Livewire and Divinity. Like those guys are doing it that way. Like even when it comes to King Spawn, you have the regular Spawn, then you have the King Spawn stuff, which is all of them, and then now they have a new book coming out called Scorched, but it's all concurrent. And they make it very easy. Like Todd McFarlane was really good at making it easy for you to just jump in. So the indie guys have a really good time. That's why we should start sharing more. That's why I put the Livewire thing out there today, because it's really easy to get into that stuff because they do not do that. Obviously, because they don't have the same marketing dollars behind them, people don't see it, right? They don't see it as much, and it's up to like word of mouth. Something's got to be really big, or like somebody like Amazon has got to like, pick up a series, you know what I mean, to go make it make sense for the general audience. But for DC and Marvel, it's kind of hard for them to do it because those other storylines, like the multiverse and stuff, they're all hoping that it also gets picked up for a movie. Like that's the new motivation now. Like, will my story get picked up?
Spaghetti out of wall, man. It never sticks. So listen, guys, great topics. I didn't want to keep everybody here. I know this is impromptu, last minute type deal, but it was great conversations. And I'm gonna leave y'all with this, man. This anime and manga, it's gonna be the next wave. It's gonna be out there when Gershon, actually your generation, you were born in 91, your generation gonna be, when y'all get 40s and 50s, y'all gonna be the people that you graduated with. They're gonna be trying to figure out how they can leverage Japan, because it's Japan stuff. They ain't gonna let it just come to America and we just make a whole bunch of money. So they're gonna have to do something. But they're gonna figure out a way.
I'm like late millennial. I'm a late millennial, so yeah.
Late millennial. But none of that stuff is, those Japanese, they have been on record saying they do not want, like some of them said, even have gone on record saying, do not want black folks into stuff like this. And that's what's the weird stuff about how hard we go for this manga anime. But that's a conversation for
well, if I could, just for a minute, Hershel and Gershon, take a look at this comment. I apologize, we don't know who the user is, but it's interesting.
I know him actually, yeah.
Okay, so I think his point is that unlike Western comics, there's less focus or inclusion of social issues in representation in manga or in comics. So as a result, I think he's saying his personal preference is, hey, I like manga because there's less in there about what's happening socially and just more about this, core storyline, I guess is what's said there. What are thoughts about that?
Yeah, that should be great for people who keep crying about social justice warriors, people that be crying about, why is comics so political? Well, here's manga. You should be fine. But comics have always been that. I hope they don't change from doing that. I hope they never change from showing. Stanley said, I always want Marvel to be the world that's right outside your window. But
it was done differently though. It was done differently. It was done differently in the past though. There is a difference, right? Because if you look at early X-Men comics, like if you look at God Loves, Man Kills, if you remember that comic from a while ago, they illustrated both sides as like, it wasn't just leaning in one direction, right? It was, mutants, them getting killed, and then them also being kind of, crappy people, and then the humans that were also killing them. So it was like, it was executed better a long time ago now. And Stan Lee said he didn't want to beat people over the head with a message. That was one big thing that he said. And right now, it's not like that. Now I'm the author, and you need to know that this is what I stand on. I don't care about the other side. This is what this is. And that is doesn't matter what direction you point to, left, right. When you start beating people over the head with what it is, it does it just gets a little bit annoying. It's heavy-handed. And that's
I got you. Well, I'll tell you this much, guys. Thank y'all for coming on with me tonight. We done shut it down at 45 minutes. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. Did we run our Do we run our ticker? Is our ticker ready? Boom. There we go. Make sure y'all like, subscribe to our YouTube, our Twitter, and our Instagram. That's what supports this. People say, "Oh, I want y'all to come back." That's what y'all want Rico to come back. You gotta like and subscribe.
Yeah, we need those subscriptions.
We need those subscriptions, man. So we trying to listen. We gotta get Rico needs subscriptions. We gotta get. I can't come to Rico with no subscriptions in my hand. So listen, I can try to see if I can get Rico the first of the month, maybe next week, or maybe shoot, we might do something this week. We might go Rico on the tail end. I don't know, but
now we do have a show in a few days, though, right? We have one.
We do, but we don't know what day that's going to be. Y'all got to stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Another good show coming up.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you, Rashawn. This was an awesome talk. I learned a lot today, but I even learned even more from this video. All right. Y'all stay blessed.
Thank you.